Hey, hi Jalaj.
You have any questions?
No, Jalaj, I started executing some steps only, so completely not done. So for now, I don't have anything.
Okay. So today's topic is EMR.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to do any hands-ons here, just going to go theoretically here. I mean, it's actually not needed. So what is EMR? See, uh, in around 2010, this Hadoop was introduced into the market. Okay.
Hmm.
If you know Hadoop, it's a combination of Spark where you have a distributed framework. Like all this distributed programming, all these things actually started from the Hadoop. I mean, you can say that. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, Now, EMR is nothing but Hadoop implementation on cloud. Okay. Basically, you can go ahead and launch yourself a Hadoop cluster as per your requirement, your configurations. You can install some pieces of technologies that you want to execute, and you can get yourself a Hadoop cluster. Earlier, it was like you have to collect physical nodes, you have to connect them, configure them, and admin them to perform your activities. Okay, so EMR it stands for Elastic Map Reduce, and Map Reduce is the framework that Hadoop uh, has. Okay, Hadoop is actually based on the Map Reduce framework. Okay, that is Hadoop 1.0. Then from Hadoop 2.0, Spark was introduced. Okay, now what is a Spark? You all know that thing. So Spark utilized Hadoop's distributed architecture, where it has cluster manager, worker nodes, and the master node. The same architecture it implies it used, but with different frame of softwares and different frame of configurations. Okay. Now I'm not going to go to go to Spark again, like what is executors and all those things. So as per definition, it is Amazon EMR, previously known as Elastic Map Reduce. It is a managed cluster platform that simplifies running big data frameworks such as Apache Hadoop and Apache Spark. And it can process a vast amount of data using these frameworks, and this is very much utilized for ETL applications. Okay, and it is very easily we will be very easily to connect with S3s and other services like RDS, S3s, DynamoDB, Redshifts. Okay, so what is the use cases of EMR? Okay, so EMR use cases actually same as AWS glues. Okay, you can run your Spark applications to ETL operations, that is extract, transform, load, and you can run your PySpark codes there. Then what is the difference? Like when should we use EMR and when should we use AWS Glue? Now, in AWS Glue, we are charged based upon the seconds the Glue job runs. Okay, and in EMR, we are charged upon the seconds or the hours the EMR cluster runs. Okay, so it is like when you have workload, it depends on actually on your workload. When you have this kind of workload where you run your jobs, like your total execution time for your all the PySpark jobs is around 4 hours, 6 hours, or 8 hours in every day, then it is recommended to use AWS Glue service. Okay, because there we no need to admin anything, there we no need to configure any cluster, there we no need to maintain any cluster, and it is much more less headache than EMR clusters on AWS Glue. But if we have a workload where we are supposed to run our jobs for around 15 hours or 20 hours, and those are very huge jobs, and all day your developers are doing some testing on your things, like like when the workload is like, I mean, we are assuming that our cluster or our jobs are going to be too busy in a day-to-day basis. In that case, we will launch EMR clusters. Okay, they will be much more stable, they will be much more powerful, and we will not be worrying about like running jobs multiple times. Anyhow, we are paying for the EMR cluster on per second basis. Hence, we are not worrying about to submit our jobs multiple times. While on the other hand, in AWS Glue, we might be worrying about that if we are submitting a job 20 times or 30 times. Okay. So that is a major difference in EMR and AWS Glue on cost wise. Second point is, as I mentioned, EMR is a proper Hadoop implementation. Okay. On AWS Glue, we only get Spark facilities, Spark functions, or Spark features. Okay. I mean, we do have options with the programming languages like Python and Scala. But on EMR, you get variety of other things as well. Okay. So if I go on clusters and let's terminate this cluster. See, one thing I'm advising to everyone, do not go ahead and launch EMR clusters. These are very expensive things. And anyhow, you're only going to run PySpark codes here that you can run on your local machines, as well as you can download Hadoop implementation locally in your machine if you want, or you can practice your Spark jobs on AWS Glue. Or you can go on Databricks, sign up for 14 days free trial, and you can practice up there as well. But do not launch EMR cluster. EMR is not a free service. It is very expensive service. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create cluster. I'm not going to create this, just showing you options. See, we have a cluster, okay, like this, it's going to be appear to you. You can choose a name and you can choose a release. I mean, obviously you're going to choose latest one if you're launching it today. I mean, actually, before I go ahead and in these configurations, I want to pause here if you have any questions about the introduction and use cases of EMR.
Jalaj, I have one doubt. So currently we are working on the cloud, okay, Hadoop. So whether I can integrate that Hive system here?
Yes, it is exact replication of Hadoop. So as you can see, if I choose Spark, see we have a variety of bundles. If I choose core Hadoop, this is Hadoop 1.0. Okay, here you can see what technologies I can install here. I can install Spark 3.5.0, Zookeeper, Tej. I have Hive here, Jupyter Lab, Oozie, Presto, all those things that I have here. I mean, accordingly, as per my need, I can choose the configurations that I want. Okay, you can choose Spark interactive workload. It is going to be much more expensive. And then again, you have Hive, Hadoop, and all those things are available here.
Okay. So suppose an existing system, right? I have a cloud Hive. So I want to move all this Hive table to EMR. So is there any easy ways there?
Okay, configurations you can directly launch the cluster here, and then you'll have to move your code and data to S3. So it is not so easy. It is not so easy lift and shift. You'll have to use some techniques here. I mean, I haven't worked on that part, so I do not have very vast experience there on that side. But eventually, it's going to be you have to get your data from HDFS systems to S3s, because eventually behind the scene it uses S3 as its source for data storage, and it converts that into HDFS format. And then you have to migrate your codes as well.
Okay.
I mean, if there's any lift and shift thing that I am in right now, I am not aware of that thing.
Okay. So most probably we use Glue only, right? In AWS, or how it is? How do you go with
Mostly
the
it's going to
Glue?
be Glue only, because no big data project is running to 24/7. See, it is like, how do I explain this to you? I mean, uh, if you are running only 4 hours, then why would you launch the EMR cluster for 24 hours? It's going to be more costlier than, and nobody uses Hive anymore. I mean, it's all, we have Athena tables, you have Redshift and all those things. If you are core, I mean, if you're like very, very, very Hadoop passionate, or you want Hadoop only, in that case only people will be on EMR, because again, it's a maintenance. You'll have to upgrade these versions. You will need to hire at least 1 or 2 admins for this, for sure. While on AWS Glue, you do not need any admins. I mean, you can simply have developers and they can manage each and everything.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so as you can see, we have this interactive, UI here. You can choose Core Hadoop, Spark Interactive, Flink systems, HBase systems, all those things you can choose here. Choose technologies that you want to install. I mean, as if you know Hadoop, then you know that Pig is a ETL language, Scoop is a data migration tool, Hive is a data analytics tool, Oozie is a Oozie is a scheduler, if I'm not wrong. Oozie is a scheduler. Then you have Hue as a interactive UI to watch your Spark jobs and submit your Spark jobs like that. So it's a complete EMR is nothing but a complete Hadoop ecosystem. If you want to learn EMR completely, then you'll have to learn Hadoop ecosystems completely, and that is again kind of a different stream now. Like people are moving from Hadoop to cloud, okay, not cloud to Hadoop. So I suggest stay away from these technologies. Like nobody just pick or scoop nowadays to migrate their data. Okay, I mean if it is there in some project, it is there. If you will be hired in that project, it will be like a production support or support work only. Okay, I mean it's a more probability. I'm not saying completely. I'm not completely denying this part, but this is how it is. People are moving from Hadoop or from legacies or from on-prem to cloud. No, not the vice versa. Not from cloud to on-premise. Okay, and then you can choose these options if you want to use your Hive, your Athena tables for Hive tables as well. If you check this box, your Athena tables will be reflected as Hive tables. And if you check this box, then your Athena tables will look like as a Spark tables as well. Okay, you can choose which operating systems you want to launch. You can choose the cluster configurations. You want uniform instances for all your clusters. Sorry, all your worker, all type of your nodes. So eventually, if I come back to my PPT, we have three kinds of nodes in EMR. Okay, it is master node, as I mentioned in the Spark as well. This is some kind of node that is there to manage the workload, distribute the work, distribute the data, compile the code, receive the outputs from all the worker nodes, like kind of a coordinating work it's going to do. Core node is eventually going to store the data, eventually going to execute the task, eventually going to report back to master node that this is what I have done with your request. Then in EMR, we have task node. In Hadoop, we do not have task node, but in EMR, we have task node. So use cases of task node is, let's say you are running a workload and it is taking some time. Okay, let's say you have submitted a job and it is taking some like 1 hour, 2 hours of time, or even more than that. And if you want to complete that process, bit faster than that, okay, in that case, you can use a task node. The task node is not going to store the data permanently. Okay, it is like for some time or for a time frame, you are assigning more capacity to your cluster in a compute terms. Cluster will utilize that capacity and it is going to be terminated after that. If task nodes are terminated, no data is actually stored or saved back on the task node. So this is just for time being you are giving more compute capacities to your EMR systems. Okay, and mostly for task nodes we use spot instances. Now what is a spot instances? Okay, so EMR actually runs on EC2 machines. So if you can see here, it is asking you to choose a EC2 instance type. Basically, it is asking you to choose a configuration for your for your machine. That means it's going to be 4 vCore CPUs, 16 gigs of memory, and it is EBS only storage, and its cost is $0.202 per hour, per instance per hour. Okay. Now, in the same box, you can see we have lowest spot price. This one. Okay, here it says 0.08. That is almost 2.5 times less. So this basically means this is a leftover capacity in AP South 1. Okay, basically it means this. So it is like if you want, you can use spot instances as your task nodes. They are going to they are going to kick your computation to run faster. Okay, and eventually you will end up saving some time. But there comes a but in big bold letters. But the price goes higher. If the price goes higher than your bid price, okay. Let's say for this spot instance, you say I'm ready to pay instead of 0.08, I'm ready to pay 0.1 at it's also. But if the price goes more than that, in that case, eventually from that second only, the systems are going to get terminated for you, only the task node. Okay, so you will lose that extra capacity. So this is the reason it is recommended to use spot instances only for task node. If you use spot instances for your master node or your core node, eventually you are going to lose the data as well. That is why spot instances are only recommended for your task node. Okay, just in case if you need more capacity, use a cheaper capacity available and boost your process. Okay, then this is asking for primary, that is your master node. Then it is asking for core nodes. How many core nodes you want? You can choose that. Okay, if you see node configuration. Okay, I mean no. You can choose the core nodes here. I mean at some place you should have the option of choosing the number of nodes as well. Yeah, it's asking how many nodes you want. Okay, so for master you're always going to have one node. Okay, that's what that option is not here. Then if you want how many core nodes, okay, then you can say 3, 4 or whatever. Accordingly your price will go up and up. If you want to use for instance as a task node, you can choose that option. Then comes your networking settings. You'll have some because you will launch your systems. This is like launching actual machines. It is like a server system. So this is what the reason why you will need to have your own VPCs, your old subnets, your old security groups, your firewall options, your net options. All those things will come into this picture. Then if you want, you can have your steps available here, like some Linux commands running before the launch of a system. And then cluster termination option. This basically means as and when your systems are not using the cluster, they are going to be terminated after some time. Okay, this is actually a recommended option to launch it or clusters. I mean before launching the clusters. See, again I'm repeating. EMR is a service that is primarily not being used very heavily. Okay, this is the reason why you will not see EMR in most of the JDs. Even if it is there, even if the server is there, it is not going to change anything for you. Anyhow, those projects will be having a connectivity to Jupyter notebooks with your EMR systems, and you will be able to use PySpark there. Okay, eventually it is PySpark that you should know. Okay, eventually it is the PySpark that you should know. Okay, and you are not going to work as a Hadoop admin or EMR admin. That is the reason why you no need to learn EMR separately, like what is what, how to configure VPCs, how to configure subnets, how to configure all those things. You are not going to work as admin of the EMR. That's why I am again repeating, please focus on PySpark. Okay, so let me know if you have more questions. Any questions, Karthik, Ashwarya?
Yeah, Julie. So while explaining our project, we don't need to mention EMR, right?
Yes,
First,
please do not. Please do not. If you mention that, you will be asked questions, or and let's not face the questions that we don't want to answer.
okay.
So Jalaj, if I just create this cluster, right? So from that time onwards, my billing will be started, or after submitting some jobs.
No. From that time only, whether you run any jobs or not, it's going to get start your billing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm again repeating. Please do not practice this thing. Okay,
Yeah.
not everything is meant for practice.
Okay.
If you want to practice PySpark, I suggested you download PySpark locally on a machine. Use it for free, or download Cloud Data Native Hadoop for free. Again, I'm repeating. Okay, let me just give you one more time. Interview-based questions. Okay, AWS data engineer. Okay, they will write in JD mostly Glue, S3, Athena, Redshift, Snowflake. Okay, what else? Python, SQL, Spark. Okay, these are the things you are going to get, and maybe Databricks as well. Databricks also. Okay. Now, Spark is something that you can execute on AWS Glue, locally, Hadoop cluster. Okay. Then you have Python as programming language and SQL. I mean SQL, you know, it's always there, so it goes on Redshift, Snowflake, and your what else? Athena. Okay. Now, as you can see on the screen, your day-to-day tasks, Python can be on Glue, Lambda, etc. Okay. Now, as you can see on the screen, your your day-to-day work is going to be writing PySpark codes or SQL codes. Okay, your day-to-day work is going to be on PySpark and SQL. Why? Because you will be asked to pull up a source, transform that, and load it to one of the system like Redshift or Snowflake. For this, you need PySpark and SQL only. So 30%, I mean, you can actually combine this 70% questions, practical basis, okay? Theory as well. Going to be on SQL PySpark. Now, why I'm adding SQL PySpark? Let's say this question only, okay, that I have on my notepad. They give you this table. This is your input table. Okay, anyone try to solve this query? No one actually, no. Do this thing if you want to, clear your interviews. Nowadays, you no need to solve as well. Just type this question on ChatGPT. Just look for its answer, like how it's going to get solved. That's all you have to do. Okay, yeah. So I was saying your question is going to be like, let's say this is the input and this is the output you want. They'll give you free end. Solve it via SQL, solve it via PySpark. It's your choice. That's why your 70% of questions are going to be practical basis or theoretical basis from SQL and PySpark. In PySpark, hot topics are optimization ideas. Now for this, they might, round up the questions. I mean, create some stories over this thing. Same thing. It's same thing. Like we are running some PySpark code. They are taking much more time. We have asked you to investigate the things. What are the things you are going to do? So basically, he's going to ask you. He's asking optimization ideas. So you have to give those ideas that I've already explained in the Spark classes. Okay. They might ask you to write some code or syntax check. Not 100% correct, but somewhere it should be correct. Okay. SQL, same group by or join related queries. Okay, and also group by, join, or window functions. Okay, and in Python, you can expect 15% questions. Okay, and it is going to be more majorly on list and data frames. Okay, and majorly from the syntaxes that I have already shared with you. Okay, that we have practiced in the starting of the course. Okay, like I have a list, I want to do this thing with you, this, I want to extract this part, I want to extract this value, I want to delete this value, how to add, how to do this, how to update our dictionaries values, can we have duplicates in the dictionaries, can we add new keys into dictionaries, can we remove keys in the dictionaries, can we update the values in dictionaries, those kind of questions. Then in data frame also, how I access particular columns, how I access particular rows, how I get the selected data, how I filter my data frames, how I join my data frames, those sort of questions. Okay. Then rest 15% cloud concepts. The question is why? Okay, why would you like to use AWS Glue, not EMR? Okay, when you would like to use crawlers, why it is beneficial? What are the cons of the crawlers? Why Lambda function? What are the benefits of the Lambda functions? What are the losses, cons of the Lambda functions? When should we use it? Why should we use it? When should not we use it? What is S3? What are the optimizations on the S3 that we can make to store the data? Okay, how we can configure lifecycle rules? What it means? What it is storage classes? Okay, and on Redshift, a comparison between a database versus data warehouse, comparison between a Redshift and Snowflake, comparison for cost optimizations, those things are going to be asked majorly in the interviews. So if you have any questions on this.
Jalaj, I have some few questions. Like if they ask, see, we go PySpark because then high SQLs are very slow, but here it's very fast, right? So is there anything that PySpark or SQL like that? When you go for PySpark, when you go for SQL, of course, PySpark a programmable language, but like SCD type 2 and all, right? We can handle it in SQL itself, right? So it is here it's more faster compared to the legacy systems. So is there any thing that you will go to Spark using when this time go to SQL only this time?
Okay, so at what places you can use PySpark? Tell me.
Suppose I want to iterate some jobs like writing the loops or creating something.
And what places you can use SQL?
SQL, if I go for SCD type 2 or type 1 or pulling the data like a create a table insert, writing of views, can go with the SQL, right?
Okay, so see, answer actually is lying on here only. If you are using these pieces, okay, if you are writing your code on Databricks, AWS Glue or EMR, it is preferred to use PySpark only. Okay, and I am only saying preferred. They are not very huge losses or benefits. Yes, PySpark data frames can optimize better with the PySpark native code. If you use SQL context, it is going to be slower, not very heavily slower, bit slower. Okay, so your SQLs should not be. I'm not saying should not. You should try. Okay, I'll say you should try to avoid SQLs on AWS Glue, EMR, and Databricks. Or let's remove the Hadoop cluster. It's never going to be there. And let's remove these three options. Okay, let's remove those options that we are not going to actually use. So if you're using AWS Glue or Databricks, you try to use PySpark. I'll say prefer PySpark. Okay. Then obviously in Redshift and Snowflake and Athena, you cannot use Spark. So it's obviously SQL. Now, if he can ask, should we do S3 2 on Redshift or should we, do it on our transformation layer only? That is our AWS Glue. In that case, say you should do it on transformation layers only, because Redshift you want to use for your analytical queries, not for transformations. Remember that part. So try to avoid your transformations from your analytical layers. Keep the things very clear.
Okay. And also regarding the whether the questions will be asked like in Snowflake, right? We are like creating the stored procedures, functions, right? So will they ask like that also, or?
See, Snowflake has various of features. See, understand this thing. When you are learning a technology that does not has very huge features, they are going to stay with the basics. But if something has a lot of features, like Databricks has that, okay? Because in Databricks you have delta tables, you have live tables, you have delta lake architecture, you have lake architecture. That's why we are going to ask you about those things also. How to connect Databricks with S3, how to connect Databricks with Azure systems, okay? Same goes for Snowflake. Snowflake has different types of table. It has time traveling. It has snow pipe. It has copy commands. The way of loading the data from S3 to Snowflake is also a different thing. So you should know that part also. How we handle CSV files in that case. How we handle JSON file in that case. How we handle Parquet file in that case. What is integration object? What is stage in that Snowflake? What is file formats? Okay. Then eventually he will come to SQL, but he will not come to Snowflake SQL. Like he is not going to ask you write a stored procedures on, like he's not going to validate on your knowledge on stored procedures syntax of Snowflake or Redshift. Immediately he might ask you write a SQL. That is a very obvious thing, but stored procedure way he might not. I mean, I have never seen a stored procedures question in the Snowflake.
Yep.
Then the one question that I asked in few weeks back, the one question that was asked by BCG interview person, I told that part. Should we use the JSON? If you remember that question from that recording, where we were having two different approaches to solve the JSON files. That kind of tricks interviews will try to play with you. So you have to understand the basics in that case. Okay, it's see, questions are not, see, actually technology is to if you understand the basics of any technology, you will always answer correctly. If you just try to learn the hot topics, then it's going to be a bit problem. That's why I focus more on basics in this course.
Yep. And also there'll be a questions on pricing things also, right? What will be a price for this?
Because price is hot topic. See, if you can reduce some companies bill from $20,000 per month to $15,000 per month, that is it's saving from them. For these guys.
So, but Jalaj, in real time, right? When whichever company are working, so we'll be able to see the dashboard, pricing dashboard also. It will be for whole organization, right? So we can see all the bills, or you can see only your user bill. How is it actually?
It depends on the IAM role that you have got.
Okay. So usually, but whatever it will be, but usually I'll be able to see my bills, or
No, usually you won't be.
okay.
There's a concept of least access privilege. So you will only be given the access to those services that you need to use for your development. That's all.
Oh. So if the questions ask, right, how do you reduce the cost? So how can you say this will cost too much? So we can want to make some stories, or by saying something we can understand that okay, this ran for this money, so it would have cost this much. So
You have to go by minutes. You have to talk in terms of execution time, not in terms of cost.
Okay, so minutes are
because see, never ever commit to exact numbers. Okay. Then he might ask you. Then he might ask you too many questions like, how it gets charged, how it's done. Let's just say I optimize my glue jobs. What are the things you done? You take the best examples of PySpark scripts that you can write. Huge partitioning, only read the data that is required for your transformations, filter first, use broadcast join wherever applicable. Those kind of answers you have to give. Okay, any more questions we have?
Dalaj, if you have any questions on this AWS, right, like picky question, how do you select the buckets? How do you cost optimize? So those kind of questions with answer you have, right? Can you share those interview questions? Kind of.
Okay, for those things you have to. The bucket name selection is not a challenge. Okay, it depends on the project's way. Cost optimization on the S3 is only your storage options. What we call those things? Storage classes.
How about in Lambda, Dalaj, or Lambda also they'll be asking more questions, right? In Boto.
Not too many if you don't say it. See, majorly it is as I'm saying, it's SQL and PySpark only. It's SQL. We are going to test your ability to solve the problems, not memorizing the what is Lambda. You have not given any interviews till yet, no?
For AWS? No, I didn't give it for AWS. Actually, I don't know what interview, but they selected for AWS, but it's I didn't give for AWS, but it's like a big data with AWS. So I'm out of big data. They said they can train on AWS. It's kind of like that. For RBS, actually, it was.
Okay. Right now, PepsiCo is hiring. You can try for those kinds.
Yeah, but they're asking Azure actually. I don't know. I didn't get the AWS on that.
They're asking Azure. I mean, for me, it's easy to convert these things into Azure. I tried there. I failed in this query. Actually, I'll be very honest to you. I answered all those questions on the Azure part.
Okay.
I failed on this side.
This one is what I'll call.
Yeah, it is actually a cross-join question. You have to use cross-join. I checked this answer on the Chat GPT.
Okay.
Just
yeah,
use
it's
this.
self-table join actually.
Yeah, you have to use self-table join, and then you have to, in the where clause, you have to write string 1 should be less than the string 2. That's all.
Right.
Because you don't want India versus India also.
Right. So which one is best actually, Azure or AWS? However, since you see your resume, both you mentioned. So which you felt is good?
It's like driving two cars like Hyundai and Tata. So which one you prefer? It's all client's choices. There's no pros and cons here.
Okay, because after studying Azure, AWS, right, I see many openings for Azure actually compared to AWS.
No, it's just a by chance only. You'll get kind of equal openings on both the clouds. See, it also depends. Like Azure guys reached out to PepsiCo. They built their cloud openings there. I mean, they built their cloud contacts there. So now PepsiCo has on everything on Azure only. So for product-based companies, you will only get one choice. But for like companies like Deloitte, EY, KPMG, they'll be hiring you for both, whatever you have.
Okay.
Because they have different clients. Okay. And if you can go on multi-cloud, that is obviously cherry on the top of it, cherry on the cake.
Yeah.
GCP is also emerging. Some companies have GCP as well.
Yeah, Dodge, Ford started asking for GCP nowadays. Yes.